I want to take a moment to talk about finances, but more credit specifically. The thing is, with the content I do, sometimes it comes from a conversation I can see me having with someone in the future, something happening in my life. There's all reasons as to why I come up with the concept of the content. For instance, I was thinking just credit in general, how I've been rebuilding my credit rating and things like this. Then I think about the conversations I may have with my daughter in the future. At the moment, she's going through bit of a love issue. And there's something maybe I'll touch on in a topic at a different date, not specific to her, but the lessons that through that and the things I've been trying to help her with in that sense. But also the detachment, allowing them to learn for themselves as well. I don't want to digress and go in that path, but that's something on my mind at the moment too. But when it comes to credit, I find some people can be responsible, some people can be irresponsible. But the thing about it is, it's literally it's part of us. So there might be someone who maybe has poor credit, and then they think, "Oh, you know what? I can't get that on credit. Can you do it for me?" Um, and that's not a reasonable request. Now, someone that says no is going to look like they're being selfish, spiteful, blah blah blah, and it's not. It's literally it's your responsibility. So if someone has a positive credit rating, it's because they've been responsible with finances. So that's why they've gained that credit rating. So of course, if you was to just go frivolously helping people because they want this, they want that, and it starts to impact yours because they don't make the repayments, then that doesn't make sense, because that's not someone who would have a positive credit rating. That's a reckless person, just like the previous person. So people need to take responsibility for it. The reason I say all this is because I've been quite reckless with credit for a majority of my life, and sometimes it's been through hardships that I couldn't control. Sometimes it was just reckless spending. It's my own fault. I take ownership of all of it, you know. But the one thing I recognize, it's a lot harder to repair your credit than it is to destroy it. So it's easy to ruin it. It's disaster. You don't realize the ramifications and how low it can go. And it's only when you truly need it or you want something, you go, wait a minute, this is impossible. Like, I'm never going to have it ever again. And again, like I said, this is going to come through conversations I will eventually have with my daughter, because she's getting older now. She's 15, so it's not going to be too long really before she's like 18 and she can start making decisions for herself. But I would need her to understand the ramifications to things. It's nothing wrong with having this if it's sustainable, but I wouldn't do it as soon as you can apply for it. You know, so things like that. Really, it's a case of get a bit of a financial footing first before you start stepping out into the world and doing those things. Because the reality is, you're going to have to use some form of credit to start building a history. So if you're going to want something better in the future, or favourable interest rates and all these things, or opportunities, you're going to have to step somewhere, but it's about being responsible. So I talk from experience, but I talk from experience on the wrong side of it. You know, I'm not talking from the point of being a guru who's got the best credit rating ever, and this is how I built it. I'm talking from the point of view where I was literally probably the lowest score you could possibly have, and I've been rebuilding it. So I know what I did wrong. I know how I decided to reset, and the purgatory that come with it. That literally a huge period of my life where I couldn't get credit at all, and now a period of my life where it's rebuilding. So that's where I'm talking from. So I wouldn't want my daughter, for instance, to go through all those lessons. It's incredibly hard and challenging, or because she didn't want to listen to something, or she just decided to just repeat the mistakes. That's very naive and stupid to repeat a mistake that I am not very, you wish didn't happen. Like, it's took too long to repair it. It's so frustrating, you know. You start feeling you've learned some lessons. Okay, I'm someone that can be reckless at times, so I still make some bad decisions. But again, I take ownership of that. But I do remedy things as fast as I can. So, just as an example, there is just in the past, I used to bury my head in a sand. So back in my 20s, I found ways to cope. So let's say I have bills and you just had stress because, I used too much credit, and it was this credit, that credit. You don't realize it compounding upon itself. One of the naiveties I actually had, and I think this is where, again, it'll help people maybe look at the fine print a little bit more, just take a broader understanding. A lot of the catalog, or, the things you can get delivered on credit, they can seem more favorable than they are. So for instance, your mind plays tricks on you. So let's say something says it's £10 a week. Now, I understand it's £10 a week. So people think, so most people would understand that's £10 a week. my mind was like missing it for some weird reason. And I just naturally just attuned it to monthly because that's where you get paid monthly. And I just naturally thought, oh yeah, £10. Yeah, that's not too bad. Yeah, okay. But that's, again, it's my own naivety and mistakes. Of course, it's stupid when you look at it. You go, why didn't you look at how did you not notice? And it's like, I noticed it said weekly, but it never processed in my mind to times it by 4 or 4.5 really for a month, 3.5. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I'm getting lost myself now. 4.5. Because normally 4 weeks is 28 days. Most of the time, if it's monthly, if you pay monthly, of course, you've got another half a week roughly, so 4.5. But anyway, so in my mind, I'm just doing the math. So, oh yeah, that's fine. £10 there, £10 there, £10 there, and it weren't £10 there, £10 there, £10 there, was it? It was £40 there, £40 there, £60 there. All of a sudden, you think you got to pay £50 that month. It's £200 on top of anything else you had, and it's like, oh my god, this is outrageous. So there is that side of things. I think it's also worth noting that if you get anything on credit, really understand the duration of that. Like mobile phone contracts have got out of hand. Back in the day when they first came out, of course they were a lot cheaper, but they used to be just annual. Of course, it didn't seem sustainable to give a new phone every year to people. It was like, where are they making their money? But phones have got so expensive now that they're looking at like 4-year contracts and things like that. And it's like, that's a stupid amount of money all the time for such a long period of time. It doesn't make sense. So it's worth looking at those things, whether you really would think that's sustainable. And on top of that, again, if you're looking at mobile phones, don't get caught up in the fad of needing the latest and greatest, because most of them are not much different to the previous generations. I've got an iPhone 14 Pro at the moment. I think we're on the 16s now, I think it is. I have no interest at all at the moment. It's literally because I'm only using it for like email, banking, very low level social media like TikTok and things, and the odd photo and things like that. There's very basic things like what do I need if you think about that, what do I need the latest phone for that's going to do more than what I'm doing? That's how you have to think, because otherwise you're going to always get caught up in technology. Now you're going to see an example where I'm not necessarily that smart with it. Like I am to a degree, but you'll see a reckless. What people see reckless in a minute. So I don't want to seem perfect here. It's just an awareness, because you're spending this side, it means you might not be able to spend that side. So just have an awareness of how much you're really spending and the financial ramifications of it. So like for me personally, like when it comes to cell phones, mobile phones, I don't know. I just wanted one that had a better camera, which is why I went with a Pro. So effectively, even an iPhone 16, I know they've got AI built into them now, but the camera's not going to be as good as the camera I've got on my 14 Pro, because the 14 Pro's got all the lenses, so it can do the zooms in, it can do all sorts of stuff. It's got literally 3 different lenses for different types. So yeah, it would have to be an incredible upgrade for me to consider paying the expense, because what's the point? So I can just pay, like for instance, now I've got a SIM-only plan on my phone, and it's about £19 a month, 125 gig, unlimited minutes, unlimited calls. Like, why do I need more than that? And do you know what I mean? So like, it's tempting to go and get another phone because you could apply for it, but it's like, why do I need it? And what would I do with this one? And then how much different are they? What are we doing? Just getting it for the sake of it? Like, what we're doing here. So just to say there. So when it comes to phone contracts, because again, this is how this come to be. Because I was thinking about my daughter in general. I'm thinking I'm rebuilding my credit. There'll be a point where she probably wants a new phone. Even though on her mum's side, she's took care of that. So that's a nice thing. But then I just started thinking, well, she's 15. She's got a nice phone now. It'll probably reach a point where she's 18 or so, and it'd be her responsibility then. Because I was thinking about that, like, yeah, I could take on that responsibility, and there will be times when I want to help her, and I'll take that on. But there might be times when I just think, you're old enough now. Like, this isn't for me to take, because, you get used to taking care of your children, and you just think you can take care of them their whole life. And of course, you'll always be there, but there's going to be a point where they're going to be responsible for themselves. So if, for instance, she's like 18 and she's thinking, and let's say she's starting to work now, and then she says, I need a phone. Can you get me a phone? It's like, you can apply for your own phone now, and you'll be responsible for it. So you've got to decide what phone do you really need, what plan is good, how much sustainable. Again, it's teaching them responsibility, isn't it? But the real problem with that lesson at the moment with phones is the fact that the duration of the contracts are prohibitively long. Now, no, like me, like I know my limits now, and again, I've learned from the past. Having something that's with me for so long, so like for instance, your phone, it gets boring. Now, phone's tangible because phone's something you're going to use every day. It's a little bit different. But if it's a different object, how long do you feel comfortable paying for it, thinking that you might not be using it much by that point? So if you, let's say something's a 4-year contract, like, are you even using it in 4 years? Because that gets annoying, paying for something that you now have has no value to you in your life. So I know within myself, like 3-year payments and plus are a bit of a no-no for me. Like I'll get fed up making the payments. It'll irritate me because I'm paying for something that I may not be using or I've since replaced, or I'm looking to upgrade now. So it doesn't have the same value or the gravitas as it had at the beginning. So someone offers you something and they say it's 20, 30 pounds a month. And you go, yeah, that's cool. I can't believe I can get this now. And then 2 or 3 years later, it's like, this isn't, I don't feel excited about this product anymore. And yet I'm still paying the same price. So in your mind, it feels like you're paying a premium, but it's not, of course, it was the contract. So now, personally, with me, I'd rather pay a little bit more per month and pay over less months because it makes sense to me. Like 2 years is fine. 3 or 4 is pushing me, you know? So I'd rather just be a bit more pragmatic with the durations rather than even if the cost's a little bit more, I think it's worth it. Whereas some people have picked the lowest monthly cost and spread it as long as they can, but then you're just constantly paying that for such a heavy period of your life. Again, lessons from me. Now I am rebuilding my credit, and it's been quite remarkable. So just again, I'm very transparent. I've even put it in my books. You know, I had to get. It was back in 20. Wait a minute. I think it was 2018, January 2018. I'd been sorting the paperwork out before that through a debt management company, who help people with issues. And I've gone through a family court. I'd been gone through a separation. I was left with so many bills. Some were mine, some were joint. You know, and all these things. So it's figuring it out. So I took responsibility of my life. So anything that was joint that was left with me, you know, because some things were done maliciously to put me under so much stress. I applied for a debt relief order in the UK. That's a form of bankruptcy, but it's a lower form of bankruptcy, but it's still bankruptcy. So effectively, it'll wipe out your debts. You have for the year after, you have to make, if your financial situation improves drastically, or you acquire anything, it could cancel the debt relief order. So you don't want to lose that once you've got it, because it's cleared, wiped everything off. But what was important was to include everything. So if you missed a debt off that list, you would still be liable for that debt. So it's really important you did your due diligence and got everything included. So if there was a joint debt, for instance, let's say my ex left me with something and she thought, oh, fuck, he can deal with that. By me putting it in there, it removed my obligation to that debt, and then it pushed it back onto, like, she was then liable for it. And that's really what that was. And that was only a couple of debts. It wasn't nothing big. I think one was like a water bill or something stupid, you know. It was, but the rest, my debts amount, I think, over £20,000, and it wasn't like I took advantage of anything. So I don't want to get that misconstrued. It's not like I had loads of gadgets everywhere. A lot of it was TV subscriptions. You know, like when you cancel a subscription and you still had a contract with that subscription, and now they're chasing you for the duration and things like that. And I did that a few times because you missed having TV, and there were stupid decisions, but it masses, you know. So that on top of another thing, there was a loan earlier in my life, you know. So yeah, I just literally added whatever I could, and it amounted to a lot of money. So of course, the 6 years of persecution, but the reality is I couldn't get credit anyway, because it was destroyed at that point, because finances were so hard and the burden was so heavy. Like I was stressed a lot. You know, there was always letters coming through the door, someone wanting something from you that you just don't have the resources to repay. That was immense stress on my life, because there's so many compounds. You know, it's not like one person. It's like bang, bang, bang. It's constant. It's like, how can I pay this money? I can't pay all of them. It's unreal. And of course, you know, people, but each of them only cares about themselves. So they don't care if you've just paid someone else. They want theirs. So in the end, it was like, well, how am I going to handle this? One way you can do it is to come up with a payment plan, and you can do it through a company, and it can actually be official. And it might get your repayments down quite substantially. So you only have to pay like 25% of the payments to people or something. And it was like, looking at that, it was still a 6-year period. So it did make sense. Either way, you're never going to get credit in that 6 years. And it's going to cost you still money that you probably can't afford, or you just get it cleared and take the hit. And I just took the hit. And that ended in January this year. So I've always had that in my mind, that at some point I'm going to be free. At some point I'm finally going to have my life back, you know. And you just naturally assume, again, maybe naivety, that your credit rating will just improve day one. It will just shoot back. It will shoot up because there's no debts now. Obviously, but like in the UK, debts clear after 6 years anyway. So it should be it should just literally be cleared for the most part. But it didn't. It jumped slightly. It only went up very marginally. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a process here. It's not going up. It's not going to go up drastically immediately. So I recognize there's going to be ways in which if I manage it delicately and I do things, I think for the right reasons, and I balance everything out, so I don't make any reckless decisions, I can try to speed the process up. But it's going to be really important that I am like smart about it. We don't want to do things that put us in a position in the first place. That's the real lesson, isn't it? It's not to repeat the past. So we don't want to repeat mistakes, but we actively need to learn from what we've gone through. So I innately know what things will help rebuild my credit, but also the things that are going to smash it down as well. So it's about being aware of that. And again, if I can part that onto my daughter, for instance, it's going to help her, isn't it? And I just think by me talking camera publicly, there might be people who also could just do with the lesson, you know? And again, I think sometimes you're going to learn a lot from people who know what they're doing and they've done it their whole life and they're just successful business people. But what are you going to learn from them when you struggle? That's the trouble, isn't it? Like, how do they overcome struggle? Because if they've always done everything perfect, what do they know about struggle? You know, that's where the problem is, isn't it? Again, so I'm not here to say I'm a whiz with finances. I'm still learning and evolving myself, you know. And I'm going to show what some would consider reckless, and in some ways it is. I'm not going to say it's not perfect. It definitely doesn't match everybody's expectations, really, or the things they're going to need to do. I think you're going to have to make decisions for yourself to a degree. But yeah, I've been rebuilding my credit. I'm going to shut something a minute just so I can show it. So some of the things I've done, there's about maybe four things I've been doing. So since January, there's about four things I've been doing. One is I got I don't know what you'd call it, a credit building thing. So like where you split payments over 3 payments, 4 payments. So every 2 weeks you make a contribution to this payment. So let's say, for instance, something's £100, and like I got given like a £200 credit limit, which is useful. Now they've changed the rules a little bit. So before you had to pay half, then they split the next 3 payments into thirds. So which, you know, you can understand that. So if it's a £100 item, you'd pay £50 today. In 2 weeks' time, you pay a third of the £50 that's left, and a third. Now they've changed it. You pay quarter now, and then you do 25%, 25%, 25%. But you know how much that is. So effectively, let's say something's £100 today. You pay £25 today. In 2 weeks' time, you pay another 25. In 2 weeks' time, another 25. And then in 2 weeks' time after that, the final 25. So you're making the payments. You're just spreading it and make it a little bit easier, affordable. But what that's doing as well, that's going to help rebuild the credit, isn't it? Because you're now showing that you can manage it. So that's one of the things I did. And it was obviously it had twofold. One, it helps me pay for something sooner, so I can have it sooner. The other side is it's going to rebuild it's going to help improve my credit rating because it shows now that I can actively make the repayments. And if you obviously do it sustainably and don't keep messing the payments up, it just shows you're reliable now with debt, with like things like that, you know. So I did that. Then I got a credit card like weird. I don't know if I got the credit card first. I've got 2 ways here. Then I thought, you know what, I'm doing well with this, and a credit card opportunity come up, and I just thought I'll apply. I don't think we'll get it. I never got credit cards for ages since I was in my 21. I think I don't think I've had one ever since because I messed that one up. In fact, it was probably earlier than that. And that's what I'm saying. It's really hard to recover, you know. And I'm 42. But I got approved for that, and I thought, okay. And it was 0%, I think, for 18 months. So it's not like you can be reckless as long as you make the minimum, but try and get that thing paid off. Now, there's a few things with credit cards. Like if you was wealthy, you just use a credit card because the people don't realize that credit cards are only bad if you don't make the payments. If you make the payments, like the full payment, you get that thing paid off as soon as possible. You don't pay the interest, or you pay very limited interest depending on how long it took you. But also, it's like a shield. So there's protections, like almost like insurance with a credit card. So if you make a payment, let's say you make a payment to someone and they don't fulfill their obligation, it's going to be a lot harder to chase that money back through your bank, through your debit card, because it's come out of your personal account. Whereas when you spend with a credit card, the contract really is between your contract is between you and the credit card company, and the credit card company is then responsible with the merchant. So if there's like a fraud or something's happened between the service, that company owe the credit card company, and then you because you never received the goods and things, the credit card company will refund you. So they then it's up to them to then chase the money through the merchant. It's not your responsibility. So you're shielded. There's like an insurance policy with that. That's good. Other side to that, of course, is because of that shield, it makes sense that they do that rather than you risk your own money. So if you was to buy anything online or even just like in the shop, whatever you're doing, think about it. If you never have to reveal your debit card details, your bank account's incredibly safe. So you only use your credit card, and then you can just pay your credit card off with your debit card. So then the only company that really knows who your debit card information is your bank and the credit card company. So if you think about like security reasons, and you can manage a credit card, if you actually have that ability to literally not abuse it, it could be an incredible resource. So I'm aware of that side of it, but also I want that freedom. If I'm on holiday or I get caught out somewhere, I've got an emergency fund here. That's kind of what I want. And everything I'm doing is with the thought of rebuilding my credit at the same time. So if I can have access to that, great. That's going to benefit me. Maybe the credit limit will increase too, but also my credit rating. Let's get this thing rebuilt. So to start with, we've got one that's a weekly payments, the 2 weekly payment things. So make that credit card. Make sure you make your payments regularly on that. Then I got a SIM-only phone thing, because again, that was done with the understanding that it's going to help build my credit back up. You know, obviously, pay as you go would be a different option where you're not at risk of anything. There's no contract. You can literally you can do what you want. But I wanted the contract or obligation, so it goes on my credit rating file, because I want to rebuild the credit. So then you've got a phone contract. It's not a phone contract though. It's only a very minimal one, like £18.99 a month. It's not crazy. It's not like £60 phone contract. You know, I'm at a point where I can upgrade now, because they said after 3 months, then you can upgrade to a phone. Why would I want a phone though? Like at this point, I don't need it, so this is fine. And like I say, so we got the 3 things there. And then I've done something else, and this is the one where I think people are going to think it's stupid, and even I'm like sometimes questioning myself. But I think sometimes I forget it's to help me build my credit, and I'm watching my credit grow. So it's not high. Like my credit, I don't really want to give numbers out because I'm not sure it's wise. Yeah, I'm not really going to give numbers out. But what I'm going to say is it has spiked up. So we're not at the top end. I've only been I've only been repairing it for 9 months. But what I would say is it's getting higher. It's getting better. It's getting to the, bear in mind, I was at the lowest, like ridiculously low. Like it was unbearable. And now we've got to like the middle ground-ish. We're getting towards the middle ground, and then it'll be, and again, that's only in a short period of time. So I'm going to show like something else I've done. So we've done the credit card, we've done the phone, we've done the other one where you pay every 2 weeks. So these are things I'm doing. I'm not saying you have to mirror everything, but it's think about how something might favor you if you make the payments on time. How are these things? What is going to benefit rebuilding your credit rating? Because, like for instance, I could have done no credit, and it's going to be a slow process. That there's no way. If I don't think personally, if I didn't apply for these things, I don't think right now my credit rating would be as high as it is now if I hadn't done that. So if I just let the debt relief order lapse, and now my credit's free, I think if I didn't apply for any credit and I didn't have any to sort of like in and out, I don't see how it would have grown at all like much. It'd been a very, very trickle. So like this is speeding it up in my opinion. So I'm going to show something else that would be reckless. So this one's a tricky one, because I'm not going to say, look, I've got a link to this in my link tree if anyone's interested, and we get a referral. I think we both get £30, but I don't do it for that. I'm just showing what I use and what I decided to do. Now, it is reckless. It's a bit financially, if we're talking about like fair, let's say something fair is not. So you are taking for granted to a degree. But there are reasons as to why I'm doing it. So like the main one was, of course, that it's going to rebuild my credit. So it's going to rebuild my credit at the same time. Now, in an ideal world, you'd be able to get something on credit itself directly with the company, like even if it's a catalog or something, and by the time you finish making your payments, you own it. That's logical. But some of us are not at that stage. So maybe in a year's time, I can do that. I can't do that right now. And I'm looking to, and I want to rebuild. So this will benefit me in that period. So effectively, I got PS5 earlier in the year. I already had a PS5 and it annoyed me because I'd sold it and obviously you make less money on it. And then I wanted another one, but I was like, oh, I'm not paying all that over again. And then this opportunity come up and it was annoying because I'm thinking to myself, if you hadn't sold it before, you wouldn't be in this situation now. But then I keep forgetting that it's helping me rebuild my credit. So you sometimes switch off and think, oh, idiot. So it's costing me £21 a month for 2 years. You do the maths, it's like the value of a PlayStation 5 anyway. So it's like that's just stupid because this is leasing it. So at the end of this deal, I either pay them what they think's fair. You don't even know the number until then, but of course everything depreciates with time. So you either keep it and pay for it up front, the whole fee, whatever they think's fair. You can come up with a new plan, so you can pay monthly or you can extend it, which I just think extending it any longer is stupid. Or you return it, and the deal's done. So you've had it for 2 years, you've had the enjoyment with it, and I think, you know what? Although that ain't ideal, like I said, if you had a catalog, you can just or have something on a payment plan, you can just keep it, of course. So there is that side of it where it's a bit stupid. But again, not everybody has the same financial opportunities as everybody else. And I have been using it, which makes it worthwhile to me because I'll tune this differently now. I know it's in comparison to someone who can pay that a month and keep it, it's stupid. But again, that only works if you're entitled to that deal, you know? So the other side that I treat it as is at least it's a physical commodity. So for instance, to play online and all those things on a PlayStation, there's different levels of PlayStation Plus, which is a subscription service, a bit like Netflix. So it ranges all the way up to about £13 a month. But really, I have games I don't really need the service. So if you could argue that instead of PlayStation Plus for £13 a month, I have a console. You could argue instead of Spotify. I know it's a little bit more than those subscriptions, but it's similar though, isn't it? Because those things, once you stop making a payment, you don't own it anyway. And that's how my mind. It's not tricking, but it's putting it into context. Like, yeah, in the ideal world, you wouldn't have to do it this way. But in comparison to something like Netflix and Spotify, I would rather have a games console. And that's how I'm treating it. Like in that sense, you pay Netflix, you pay Spotify, you're at £20 odd a month, maybe 25. I don't really know the numbers. Roundabout. And again, like I said, as soon as you stop paying, you don't have them anyway. So you only have them for each month that you've paid. And it's the same with the console. I would rather have the PS5 than those services because I've already have Amazon Prime. But you see what I mean? Like you could have all the subscriptions and it's going to cost you a lot. So if you decide you're going to have Spotify, you're going to have Netflix, you're going to have Paramount, you're going to have Disney, you're going to have Apple, God knows what you're at, about £40 a month or so. Well, if you look at what I've got there, the Switch 2 and the PlayStation 5, I'd rather have a Switch 2 and a PlayStation 5 than the services because I don't need all of them. It's just people subscribe for shit. Like, you see what I mean? I'm not trying to trick myself. I'm putting it into context. And that's how I will say that's actually fair. Even though we know it's not fair in other aspects, in comparison to that, I think it is. So it's not as bad a deal as you think it is, if that makes sense. So I know what I'm prepared to pay for it. And I know, but I don't know, but I expect my finances to be an incredible, better situation in the period that it's going to be. So, for instance, the PlayStation 5 is a 2-year contract. So, in 2027, I think like April-ish. I don't know the month. I think it's around about April. So let's say April 2027. By then, I've paid pretty much the value of the console. It's going to be annoying when they want something for it. Now, a lot of things it's going to influence this decision. Let's say the PlayStation 6 comes out and I want a PlayStation 6. Well, there's a couple of things you can do. You can either pay for the PlayStation 5, which at that point might not make sense, but that's up to me. Or you could do, they might be, if they've got them in stock, a PlayStation 6, you can then do it again. You could do that, you know. Or you could just return it and then your obligation's finished. But I don't want to say anything dodgy, bad, but I have heard that sometimes you return things and then they'll say it's damaged or there's some cosmetics and stuff, and it's like they expect a fee, and there was nothing wrong with it. So I'm very reluctant. I haven't got these leased with the expectation of returning them, because let's say I return the PlayStation 5 and they're about $480 now, but sometimes the prices keep going up. But I would expect no more than £400 to pay for it outright. Now that's so stupid because you're paying double nearly, and I get it. But then if you think of some of the credit facilities you have elsewhere, sometimes with the interest rate, you might pay similar anyway. Um, so like, I'm not thinking of it in terms of overall value. I'm thinking about how affordable it is to me. £20 a month. I can do £20 a month. And in 4 years' time, 2 years' time, if I really want it, £400 isn't that big a deal. Like I can just keep it for that. But like I say, if the PS5, if something else comes out and it's not worth, and I don't think it's worth the 400, like, it might even be less. So I'm just thinking 400. So if they say 350, I'm going to think, well, that's better than I thought. I think it's always best to have a worst case scenario. If they tried to charge me a new price, that'd be stupid because you might as well have it and I'll buy a brand new one. Like what? So they can't really. But anyway, so in my mind, that's what I'm thinking. But anyway, so if I thought that was a really bad deal, I wouldn't have done anything else. But now, recently, I've just applied for Switch 2. So before, they wouldn't let me get anything else. It was under the one item. I'm not trying to be reckless. And because my credit rating it's not terrible yet, it's improving. So I think what they do, they give you the price based on your credit rating. So they'll show you the best price on the website, and then when you actually apply, they sometimes spike the price because they say based on we want to approve people, blah blah blah, little spiel. So it's cost the Switch 2 was supposed to be 16. So I'm only doing the Switch 2 for 12 months, whereas the PlayStation 5 is for 2 years. So I could have got the Switch 2 at a cheaper monthly cost if I had it for 2 years, but I don't want it for 2 years. I don't think I could have done the PlayStation 5 for less. I think at the time with the options I was given. But yeah, so I'm thinking in my mind, like, let's say the Switch 2, I think it's £20 a month. So in a year's time, it's about £240 I've paid, 220. I can't remember. I think it's about 240 in a year's time. Now, you could say you shouldn't have bothered. You could just get it in a year. I get that. But again, it's rebuilding my credit at the same time. So I'm thinking along the lines of, if I do it for 2 years, yeah, the monthly payment's slightly less, but by then it's probably about £380, £400 I've paid towards this. What's the point? So again, I'm not like reckless in the way people might think. It's thought out. I think about everything. So in my mind, I don't want overlaps. So let's say the Switch 2, 12 months. Okay, but by the time I'm paying for both of them, it's £40 a month. Again, look at the online services, look at your subscriptions. Without them, it starts to pay for itself. And then like this time next year, I won't be paying the extra £20 a month for the Switch 2. I'll just pay for it. Or if I haven't used it, they could just have it back. But I'm not considering returning it. I'm considering buying it. So it's about £400 at the moment. They valued it at £500. I think they're nuts. But we'll see where they're at when it comes to at the end of the cycle. If they want the full value of it, so let's say they say £400 and it's £400 on Amazon. Well, there's a decision to make, isn't there? Because on the one hand, I could return it and buy a brand new one off Amazon. On the other hand, I got it new in the first place. So it's not like anyone's ever touched it apart from me. And there is a risk that when you return it, that they might say it's damaged and then you pay an added cost. So then you pay the $400 to Amazon, then you might have to pay them a little bit more for them saying it's damaged. So I think there's a risk with that. But we'll see what number they come up with in a year's time. So it's like effectively for a year, you're borrowing it for £20 a month. And I don't think, when you think of it in that sense, it's like, I don't think it's that expensive. It's like £20 a month and I can have it now. So again, I know there's more reasonable ways to handle money, so I'm not saying I'm a financial guru here, but we do have to remember the fact that every time I make a repayment on these, it's helping rebuild my credit rating, and it is shooting up. Like each month, it's getting better and better now, and it's like, this is nice. But of course, I need to make sure that I'm making the payments. I'm responsible. So, like, if you took me in the past, like a past version of me in my 20s, I wouldn't really have done this because there is a risk with it. Like, for instance, I think they can block your products and all sorts of things if you don't make the payments. But if this was a catalog, for instance, I would have probably stopped making the payments and all sorts, or missed payments here, I was a nightmare, though, really, to be totally honest, because it was just so disorganized. It was like, if I could get something, I'll get it. But now I really am on top of this. Like, I know when the payments are going. I know how much it is each month. I know the dates, and it's managing that. And like I say, I didn't want 2 years of payments that overlap each other all the time. It was going to be a bit annoying. And I think it's a lot easier for me, like this time next year, it'll be a lot easier for me to pay £400 for the Switch, and then a year later pay the £400 for the PlayStation or whatever it is. And it'll probably be a bit less. It may even be less than that. But it's not such a big deal then, is it? But if I have to find like £800 in the same year at the same period, roughly same period, it's going to be a harder pill to swallow, isn't it? So yeah, so the way I'm seeing it is I'm rebuilding my credit, and I have these because the alternative to that. Now, think about this. Again, this is what I'm saying. I'm aware of all the ways to rebuild your credit. I got a bit fortunate that I got the credit card opportunity, and I got fortunate that now you could argue the Switch 2 I could have gotten a credit card, but I've got to repay it, so I've got to get that credit card down before I can do it. So it's a whole process. But the alternative to the credit card and the other thing I was doing with every 2 weeks is there are credit builder cards you can get, and they're supposed to help you rebuild your credit. In the same way I'm doing it with the devices. And I find them shocking. They're like £15 a month for some of them. And all you're doing is having access to a card that they're allowing you to use your own money. So effectively, you top it up with a debit card. So you actually put the credit in yourself. And then it looks to the credit reference agencies like you're making and paying your payments. And they're charging you £15 a month for that service. But all you're doing is really manipulating the credit system to a degree. That's all that is. It's like, but it's obviously allowed. But that's all it is, and that's all you're getting access to for the £15. Whereas for just slightly more, like £5 more, I can have a Switch 2 for the same and for the same period or whatever. So in a year's time, I can return it or I can buy it, and I'd expect my credit rating to be better by then. I expect my circumstances to be vastly improved. So look, I'm saying this is not for everyone. If you go into this reckless and you're just randomly just trying to get things, you just consider it that and done. It's not. There is a thing. You have to consider the end result. I'm just going to click something just to give transparency here. Right, I just want to make sure there's no personal information here. Yeah. So this is the PlayStation specifically. So it costs £21 a month. And it's like at the end of your contract, what are the options? And this is what I'm saying. So the default that they set is that you'll continue making the payments of £21 a month. That don't make sense to me. Like, why would I want to continue paying? You're hemorrhaging forever. So you can do that. So let's say you're in a position. Look, if you're looking at how much the item's going to cost you overall, yeah, that's a stupid way of doing it overall. But it's a lot easier to take a £20 hit on a monthly basis than find the £500 or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So that's a far more. It's just easier to do, but that's an option. If you let's say it come to that period and I was expecting to be able to buy it, and let's say something's happened around that time, there's an issue, and you're thinking, I can't really get it right now. Well, you could do the rolling deal, and then when you can afford it, you can buy it. The real problem with this paying the monthly, it doesn't take anything off the value of the item. They make that clear. So anyone that complains after, they didn't understand the process. So you making your monthly payments doesn't bring the value of the item down at all. It doesn't you're just borrowing it. So whatever the value of that item is. So that's the way I'm seeing it though. Is if a PlayStation 6 was to come out for any reason or something else, of course the value of the previous one would drop quite a lot. So obviously they won't make it drop incredibly amounts, but any drop is better than no drop, isn't it? So then the other one is upgrade. So it says stay up to date with the latest tech. Get the best value for money. So that effectively, you'd replace that. You can apply. So you can apply for the latest one. So let's say PlayStation 6 come out, and let's say your credit's better than it was back then. You may be able to get the PlayStation 6 for the same price because the consoles tend to be getting more expensive price-wise now. But eventually, you might be able to get the PlayStation 6 for the same monthly cost that the PS5 cost, and it's that's a lot more affordable than whatever that. Let's say it's £700-800, £21. It's good, but again, you're still going to have to think about the end. But that's an option. It's not really something it's favouring me at the moment. So it says free returns. You keep paying the £21 until you return it, so you're still liable because the way they overlap. So you'll probably end up paying that £21 either way. Be honest. Cancel, return your device. So no cancellation fee. Free returns. You keep paying the £21 until it's returned. So you just got to make sure. Once you return, you'll make a final payment of £21. I think. I don't really understand the point of that. I think it's because, actually, to be fair to them, when you receive your item, you don't make a payment for 14 days. So it's not like, so you've actually had 14 days for free. So I think that's what they're saying. There's like a behind thing. So I get it. Or you can purchase to own. So your purchase price will be available in your account from 27th of April of 2027. So it's still 2 years away, nearly, or 18 months. Contact our team to discuss purchasing your device. The purchase price is a one-off payment based on what it costs to replace the device. previous payments do not decrease the purchase price because they only cover using device. So I get that. But I like the fact you do have options at the end of this, and it's just take it, it's understanding that. The only downside with the service is the fact that if you miss a payment, I think it's £29 late payment fee, which I think is outrageous, which was the only thing putting me off in the first place. But I just think make sure as long as you've made the payments, you've not got a problem. So effectively, when you look at your bills, obviously you've got priority bills, but beyond your priority bills, consider the ones that have the biggest ramification to a late payment. It's not saying missed payment, but a late payment. So something like this, where there's a heavy price to pay for a late payment, it's like, just make sure this one gets paid then, because you don't want the fees will just get out of control, So yeah, well, I'm showing an example there, but it's like, I know on the face of it, it can seem quite reckless, but it's my credit rating is vastly increasing because I have 4 credits on the go, So yeah, in an ideal world, you wouldn't have to have the leasing one. That'll be maybe a catalog, and you're just paying towards it. And in a year, 2 years, it's already paid for. That would be nice if I could have had that one on my list, but that's not available right now. But maybe in a year or two, it will be available. One would expect. I think that's the thing with credit and in general. Like, there's going to be a period. There's going to reach a point where I'm going to have a lot of options, and it's going to be important that I stay grounded and I don't get caught up in it, because the only reason you have options is because you've been managing your finances, you've been responsible, and you've calculated everything, So I've took ownership of it. So what's really important is you don't get to the top of a mountain and then just start getting reckless, because the recklessness is what destroyed it in the first place. So, for instance, the other way that goes full circle here. Let's say I've put all that work into rebuilding myself, and that is a whole process here. And then someone else thinks, you know what, I've just been applying for this and I can't get it. Can you do it on yours and I'll pay you every month? No. I only have a finite amount of credit to my name too, So you're responsible for yours. Okay, it might take you a while, just like it did me, but I had to just suffer. I had to suffer through. It's your responsibility, and it is accountability, and it is tough love to a degree. But it's like, that's not something that someone else's. The credit agreement is between you and a company, because and then they'll do the checks and things, and if they trust you, it's because they trust you. That's between you and them. If they don't trust you, there's a reason they don't trust you. So until you give them, a reason to trust you, really, which is going to be through a steady remedying of your rating and showing an improvement, you're not going to have access to it. But then it's almost like the best way to think about it is, if they don't trust you, then why should I? Because people only screw you over. It's just the way people are. They'll stop making you'll stop being the most significant payment to people. Just don't do it. It's someone else's responsibility to get their own credit in order, and they have to suffer through the persecution if there is a period of that, like the same way I have. But I'm not doing it for people. So even for my daughter, for instance, it'll be obviously, if I get my credit rating really good and I can afford payments, then of course I'll treat her to things where I can. If I think, what she could do with that, and I don't want her to have to worry about it. But I probably will end up getting her a phone, if she's with me, just like her mum has done for her. But she's obviously been younger. But yeah, I may do that for her, just because I'd always want her to be online. I want her to be safe and all those things. I'd rather just make sure that she's definitely connected, and I don't want it, So yeah, but then there would be a point of her doing it herself helps build her credit history, doesn't it? So it'll be something we'd talk about maybe in the future, and it's something to discuss. Because I think this is the thing. No one sat down with me and had a deep conversation about credit, repayments, the consequences of not making those payments. It was just a given that you'd get your head sorted and you'd figure it out. And I think there's a lot of people in debt nowadays just because there was a naivety to it and they didn't take it serious. And I think the consequences are that big that you have to be told. I don't know if schools talk about it now, but I bet they don't. So this is something that when my daughter's of an age where she's in, there's no point in me now. She'd be bored shitless. You talk about it, she'd think, oh, why are you talking about? This is boring. But there'll be a point where she wants it herself, so she'll want credit. Then she'll be ready for the conversation because she'll be genuinely interested in it all because she's learning. And again, she won't be learning from me from a point of having the best score in the world, but she'll be hearing from me from the point of it took me freaking 2 decades to get my life back together in that sense, in terms of credit. you know, because life gets in the way, man. You can sit there and think, yeah, oh, you should have done it sooner. That's easier said than done. When you're trying to raise a family and your finances are like at a complete destitution, and a lot of the time the debts come before that, you know. So you might be single, you live alone, or you live with your parents. You don't really got obligations. You don't maybe not even taking life that serious. So you do some reckless things. You're not thinking long term. Then all of a sudden you get in a situation where you have children, you've got a family now, and they're now having to live through the burden that you created in the first place because now your circumstances have changed and it's not affordable anymore, and you've got the consequence of that. And then maybe the person you get in a relationship with had similar background. Now all of a sudden it's compounded. We've got two sets of this. It's unaffordable. We're trying to do this. Finances are getting more and more restricted. So I don't think it's never a case of, it's never as simple as the average person wants it to be. So people just think, oh, it's easy this, it's easy that. Our lifestyles are completely different. You might be single for long periods of your life. You might be just career driven. You're just focused on having things. You don't really, everything's surface level. When you live a life like that, of course, it's not going to make any sense because that's all your life is about money. So someone else that has other substance to their life and money becomes a bit of an issue, it's unrelatable to them, isn't it? So, you know, I just think circumstances change and develop all the time. So don't push yourself, never push yourself too thin, I think, is one of the things as well. So try to keep it under control. It's like almost like if you've got a limit, try not to keep pushing it to the exact limit. They always say that anyway, in terms of the way credit references and things look at your ingoings, outgoings. They expect you to have a level of availability in your funds. So if you've got a £500 credit limit, you really shouldn't be going above 250 or something like that, you know. Like I've gone beyond that, to be honest. So I'm going to try and get, my intention is to get it all the way down again. But that's really, it's utilization they expect you to do. So it shows you're managing it well. So you're not, effectively, if you're always maxing it out, it looks like you're heavily reliant on it and you're struggling. So it's all about how things are perceived. But I think as long as you make your payments on time and you get it all back together. But again, it's our responsibility, isn't it? So you're even like decisions you make, someone else might have an opinion on, but it's none of their business. If you want something and you think terms are fair or reasonable, or you agree to it, it doesn't have to be that everybody else agrees to it. But it's like, what do you think about it? The same way I think about the leasing thing. It took me a while. That's why there was 2 items on there where it says inactive, because I cancelled it twice because I was like, no, this is not bad. This is not a good deal. It's not a good deal, because I was doing the maths and I was like, by the end of the contract, you might be paying it double the price. It's like, that's stupid, and it is stupid. And then so I was like, no. Then I was thinking, well, in 2 years' time, one would expect that. Now, again, this is a projection now. It's like no guarantee things improve, but one would expect things to improve. So I expect in 2 years my finances to be in a better place anyway, so I can just buy it. Is £20 affordable now? Yeah. So that's when our head was going, wait. You're thinking hypothetical. You put the numbers together and you're making this sound like it's a terrible deal. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, it isn't the best deal, but you're trying to put numbers together that really don't need to go together. £20 affordable now. It's not hurting you. It's not that big a deal. £400 in 2 years. Okay. But because you're putting all the numbers together, it sounds terrible. And it's like, well, why we keep doing that? Just be practical about it. £20 now is fine. 200, 400, 350, £400 in 2 years. It's not a big deal, because your situation will be much more reasonable, because I'm building towards a better life. So it's like, yeah, I can envisage that being the case. Worst case scenario is you return it and it was a bit of a failure. But what was the failure? The failure is the worst case scenario is you didn't get to keep it. But as long as you kept making your payments, your credit rating's gone up. So has it been a failure? I've rebuilt my credit. So I can get something on better terms or from somewhere else, or so there's always going to be opportunities. So, like I say, eventually it come down to me purchasing it, because that fundamentally it was, for me, it was a good way to rebuild my credit. Me personally, I'm not telling people this way to do it, because like I said, the other card deal was like £15 a month and all you got was a card. And it was like, but you don't have anything for it. Whereas at least I have something. At least I have something to show for it, So if someone paid £15 a month for that card, for instance, just to access that card, you top it up with your own bank card, and in 2 years' time, let's say their credit's similar to my credit based on that, well, at least I had access. Even if you don't keep the PlayStation, because at that point, you're both at a point where you've paid things, and it's up to me then whether I return the PlayStation or keep it. But let's say I return the PlayStation. Well, at least in that period, for an extra £5 a month, whatever it is, I've had access to a PS5. That's the difference. It's like no one's saying you have to keep it, but it's in all likelihood I probably will because I had it from new. So it's not like it's used at that point. It's only used by me. And it really depends on the price. Again, like I say, if it's going to be similar price to a brand new one, what's the point? I might as well get a brand new one that's not showing age or anything. So it's really going to be down to the company what they decide to attune the price to be. Because a PS5 right now, a brand new one, is about £480, I think. And again, I think in 2 years' time, it's not about how much I've paid towards it because they've already explained that doesn't matter. But I would expect in 2 years' time, something that's 480, about 350. But I'm projecting 400 max. 350, I think, is fair. So if it comes up 350, I think that's a fair price. If it comes about 400, I'm thinking you're taking the biscuit a little bit here, aren't you? But for the sake of £50 difference, it's not worth the hassle. If it's beyond that, then sod it. It's unlikely I'd pay full price for it in 2 years' time. But again, the whole point was to rebuild my credit anyway. And I've enjoyed it up until then. So what difference does it make? But I know I focused a little bit there on certain things, but I'm just showing where I'm improving. And the fact that it's taking me calculated decisions and risks. And it's not for someone then to swoop in at the end. Let's say I rebuild it all. And then it's the same in life, You start being successful in life or you've done something, you've gone outside the box and you've pushed yourself. And then people start seeing success. So let's say you start seeing success, you've got money coming. People want to attach themselves to you. They want the opportunities with you. They want to sort of like latch on and live their life vicariously through you. And that's what people do. So it's not only in life, but in with terms to your credit. So people only see the light at the end of the rainbow. They don't see the process that got you there. So if my credit ends up like crazy good and I can get really favorable terms, you can get incredible cards, you can get incredible deals. Like literally it's favorable. And you never really have to worry about being declined. That'd be a nice place to be, won't it? But only I can make that happen. And it's a case of people. It's not for people to exploit because that's for me. That's my benefit for the way I've been treating my finances, And I think that's the whole thing to take from it. We face the consequences for good and bad based on how we've respected our own financial sort of lifestyle. And it's not for anybody to attach to us in any way in that sense. I learned the lesson. Before my ex-partner, I'm going to throw this out there now, and it was part of the catalyst that destroyed part of me in terms of finances. So I had a PayPal credit, which was a hard thing to get, and I was surprised I got it. It seemed to be random who got it. Like my credit rating weren't particularly good, and yet I got proof of PayPal credit. And there was people that got really good credit rating and couldn't get PayPal credit. Now, I think personally it was based on your usage with PayPal because I used to pay a lot of things through PayPal rather than directly through my card for some reason. I think it was eBay and things. And I think because there was a history with PayPal, I think PayPal favoured the credit application. I got an iPad mini, I think it was about £250. And my then partner, she wasn't really interested because I got one, she wanted one. And so I was like, I'll see if I can get you one then. And I got her an iPad mini. Now, we've got bills as well, but to joint together, I'm thinking, I'm looking at it, we can afford it. We can get this. So I did all that. And it was only about a month, 2 months later, like I've documented in my books, like her leaving and the chaos that come from all of that. But of course, she took the iPad with her. And now I'm left with the cost of 2 iPads on top of a lot of joint bills she left me with that shouldn't have been. A lot of obligations. So effectively I had all the household bills, every single bill, all the debts attuned to this house were effectively compounded upon me on my own with very limited resources out of nowhere. And it's like, why would you make me get you that when if you had an inkling you was leaving or doing all that? It's very manipulative. That out of all of it, at the time, that really triggered me because I thought that was particularly cruel and it actually destroyed my ability it destroyed my credit with that company to the point where they closed, they cancelled all my ability and all that. And then I had to include that in my debt relief order. So I lost the credit function that I was actually paying off. I was actually making the payments with them and I was doing well. And it's like, if that didn't happen, I would still have had access to that and it would have been useful. But that was something that destroyed my reputation with that company. So I can't, even to this day, I can't get that. Now, maybe in the future it will work out, but I don't suppose I'll need it. But the point is like by helping someone or doing something in your name for them, it messed me up. And if it weren't for that, I would be able to make my one, but I couldn't pay it all, you know. Um, and as a lesson, like even in a relationship, they're still responsible for their credit. You know, don't overextend your credit function. You know, so that's something I won't do. If I can't afford it or I think it's unaffordable, it's not for me. It's no point saying them saying, "Oh yeah, but I'll pay it." Well, we don't know if we'll stay together forever. I can't. I'm not doing it. Just share mine. You know, so if it's an iPad, just share mine. We're not doing that. If you can't get one, we're sharing my one. We're not doing two. And again, these are lessons. It's not about being harsh on someone or an example of I'm worried it ain't going to work out. It's just being prudent. It's not being. Don't be naive, because naivety is the thing that crushes all of us. You know. Again, like I said, you learn the hard way, and I've learned my lessons. To a degree, I'm still me, you know. It's like I think someone who hasn't made the best decisions in life, you're still going to be, potentially, you're still going to be a risk at times. I accept that. So I'm not here to be perfect. I don't ask to be perfect, you know. I have flaws just like everybody else. But I think I'm getting wiser, I'm getting smarter, I'm understanding the consequences more. But if something goes wrong, that's my fault. You know, because again, I'm not perfect. I can be impulsive and I can be a little reckless at times. So even with the best of intentions, we can still get things wrong. But it's my responsibility, and that's what I'm saying. My credit is my problem. So if it's going well, it's because I've earned it to go well. If it starts going down, I've made bad decisions somewhere. I've overexerted. You only have to overexert yourself for one payment or something. You know, one obligation, and it can have such a negative impact, because all of a sudden that's missed, and it just shows a regular missed, and it'll start bringing it down. And again, if that happens, that's my fault. But it's important. It's important that it's my fault for the right reasons. It's not fair. It wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair to have something go down on the basis of someone else. So, you know, personally, it's like a tough love. It's a tough love lesson. It's like, it's not my problem, because some things in life are just not our problems, and it's like accepting that. It's not cruel. It's like cruel to be kind to a degree, but it's like, it's not my. You're trying to make your problem my problem, and it's not my problem. So yeah, it's for you to figure that one out. You know, so I know it's cruel. It can seem cruel that you're not going to help someone in that sense. If you've got spare finances, let's say you're doing well for yourself, you've got plenty of money, and someone needs a little helping hand, you can give them. If you can afford to give them money, give them money. But I'm not giving you my credit. If I've got money spare and I can help you, and I think, you know, and it's something I genuinely want to do, then I'll do that. But I'm never sharing my credit. That's my point. The credit, it comes with immense risks. That's my responsibility, and I see that as something that's absolutely attached to me through the choices I make. Good and bad, it's attached to me. It's got nothing to do with anyone else. So my credit's mine. My money, yeah, I can share my money. I can't share my credit. And I think that's the lesson to learn with it.